Hi, this is Joe Speaks Truth. Just 3 years ago, New York City was placed under the harshest lockdowns out of the whole country. While things seem that they're going back to normal, I want to invite you all to listen to the untold stories of the many New Yorkers that had to survive lockdowns and vaccine mandates. Today I have two special guests. I have Violette and Carla. And the reason why we're here today is because for the past few years in New York, we were not able to go to restaurants, we were denied service, and a lot of us got fired from our jobs. These are the untold stories of the many New Yorkers because till this day, even though it's 2023, we're still suffering from the consequences of what has been happening in the past few years. So, I'm going to start off with Violette, who is a model, author, and she was homeschooled. The first question that I have for you, when did you realize that you wanted to be an actress and model?
Well, my mother put me in modeling when I was only 8 months old, and I've been doing it ever since, but I've always found it really fun, and I'm quite good at it, and I've been acting since I was 4 years old, and ever since then I've been, auditioning for roles and gigs, and I really like it, doing it, and it's really fun.
Mm-hmm. How was the booking process? Were you able to get gigs and roles without having to do any medical procedures before any gigs?
Actually, during the past few years, it's been really hard to get gigs because some of the gigs you had to be vaccinated or you had to wear a mask, and me and my mother would just not comply with that. And while other people were getting jobs, I wasn't really getting anything, and only just now I've been slowly getting a few auditions and jobs, but the past few years have been really hard to find auditions.
Mm-hmm. I see. But before 2020, how was your life? Was it difficult? I'm assuming it wasn't difficult for you to get gigs before 2020. How was your school life? Because I see, as per my notes, that you're now being homeschooled, right? So can you let us know what was a normal day in your life before 2020?
Well, before 2020, I was in elementary school, so I was just, and I would be doing auditions. Sometimes my mom would pull me out of school to do an audition, every 2 weeks or something. Whenever something came up, if it had to be during school, we would just leave school or something on the weekend. And it was usually an in-person audition, but now during this time, it's been mostly self-tapes and recordings because nothing's ever in person right now. And for school, when I was in, from kindergarten to 5th grade or from 1st grade to 5th grade, I was bullied a lot. And it didn't really have anything to do with what's happening right now. It was just that, I was just being bullied. Mm-hmm. But now that I'm homeschooled, I have a lot more friends and definitely, doing activities that I love. But I wouldn't, elementary school was not really a good time.
I see. Okay, so when they announced that there was a pandemic and that the world had to be shut down for 2 weeks to slow down the spread, what was your reaction?
I was really shocked. I wasn't really scared, but I was shocked. I didn't understand what was going on, and I was just basically following my mom and my dad, because I would, whatever they were going to do, I was going to be right behind them because I was oh, surely they know what they're going to be doing and they have an idea of what's going to be happening. So, little did I know that the world would, completely change. Mm-hmm. But it was very surprising.
I mean, I can only imagine you were about 11 years old during that time. I can only think of myself, if I would have been in your shoes, I would have probably been a little scared and also went along with whatever my parents decided to do at that time. But let me continue to ask you, right? As time went by and you saw that nothing was going to change, and then I see here in my notes that you had a scholarship for a school that was worth $40,000, right? But your mother did not accept because they were pushing masks on students. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So it was, I am bilingual, I am French, and this was a French private school. It was really nice, and they had offered me a scholarship, but I had to wear a mask to get in, and my mom is like, we're not doing that, we're not complying. You're going to be homeschooled, it's going to be a lot better. And basically I knew that whatever she was doing, I knew that it was going to be right, and I knew that I was going to be okay, and I was definitely not going to be wearing a mask to go into the school, because, you know, when I wear a mask, I feel like I just can't breathe. Like, I feel very claustrophobic. I feel, you know, really scared. Like, and going into the school and wearing that for 7+ hours, I just couldn't do it, and I felt like my mom had made the right decision.
Did you lose any friends because of the way your mom decided to not put a mask on you, and the fact that you yourself said that you didn't feel comfortable with a mask? And how did it make you feel when you saw that other people around us in our communities here were not being tolerant? They were telling us that you had to put on a mask. If not, you were selfish. Can you talk about how that made you feel?
Yes, actually, I lost 2 of my very good friends. One of them was my next door neighbor, and we would hang out together almost every day. But her and her parents, they wanted to wear the mask, and I feel like it was almost that they were afraid to go out of the house without wearing a mask, and still to this day they are still wearing a mask. And they basically told me, they didn't really say this to my face, but they basically showed me that I was not allowed to hang with their daughter or come into their home, or their daughter was not allowed to come into my home without wearing a mask. And I said, like, I'm not going to be hanging out with you. And it's not because we had different opinions, it's just the fact that, you know, besides our differences, they wouldn't allow us to hang out. And I don't know if the daughter felt the same way, but it just, you know, it wasn't because neither of us, I don't really care if she came into the house, you know, with a mask or without a mask. I don't really care if I came into the house and every single one of them had masks on. I didn't really care. I just wanted to hang out with her. But, you know, based on their circumstances and how made it felt, it just really put myself in that situation of, wow, you would throw our friendship away because of this. And there was another one where this girl, she was one of my best friends. We would talk on the phone almost every day. She came to one of my birthday parties, and we met at ballet school, and we really had a good thing going. And I was like, when are we gonna hang out? And she's like, well, my mom says you can't hang out with us unless you have a mask on. And I'm like, well, I can't, I'm not gonna be doing that, you know? Like, it's what I want to do. You can wear a mask on, it's fine. I just want to hang out. And she's like, no, you have to. And I'm like, well, I'm not gonna hang out with you then. So we don't talk anymore. I don't talk with these 2 people anymore. I haven't talked with them for like a year plus, but it's just like, you're willing to throw our friendship away for this little mask.
That's a very valid point that Violette is bringing to light, because I personally witnessed people that got divorced over the whole mandate situation. I also witnessed sons that wouldn't speak to their mothers, daughters that wouldn't speak to their fathers. It literally became a huge division of mask, no mask, and then eventually escalated to a lot worse, in my opinion, when the vaccine mandates came into play, because this is when people started to get fired. Not to say that prior to that people were not being affected, because when the lockdowns came into place, a lot of businesses were shut down. And to this day, some of those businesses have not recovered. They're not back in New York anymore. So for you, I want to commend you, because at such a young age, you were able to accept your friends, right? For the fact that they wanted to wear a mask, even though you chose not to wear a mask. However, what we see here is intolerance that's being taught to, you know, the younger generations. And you can only imagine how is that going to affect society as people grow up, as the kids grow up, because if we're not being tolerant, it's not like you told them, hey, I don't want to be your friend because you want to wear a mask. And again, to me, that was such a huge issue because as part of somebody that was advocating for medical freedom, that was a point that I was trying to bring across to other people. Like, we don't have to be fighting. We could just accept our differences. Granted, you're being deceived, but at the end of the day, if we're going to love and respect one another, we have to respect each other's choices. So I want to commend you for that, because at such a young age, you were able to understand something that people way older than you were not even able to understand, right? Now I'm going to move on to Carla, who is her mother. And I have in my notes that besides being a mother, you also worked in retail. You were a massage therapist and a dancer. And I'm going to ask you this, as a mother, seeing this happening in the world and happening to your child, how did that make you feel?
Are you talking about like from the very beginning?
Yes, from the very beginning, when they locked down the world, they initiated the mask mandates. And then eventually, like in the 2 weeks, she wasn't able to go to school anymore.
Yeah, I was pretty, I heard about, there was something coming, and actually I was going to work that first Friday of the first weekend when all of this went down, and I showed up at the building where I was supposed to give the massage, and they told me that the spa room is closed and to just go home because they're locking down everything. And so I was like, okay, that's weird. So I went home, and then as we all know, over the weekend they started to give a whole bunch of more information about what was happening. And then by Monday they said where the kids are not going to go to school, for 2 weeks, that whole slow down the spread. But then after those 2 weeks, they kept pushing the finish line. And then they said it was going to be like April 20th. And then even before it was April, it was still probably like March. They already said they're not going back to school for the rest of the year. And I mean, it was like shocking in a way that like, this doesn't make sense, and like, how can this be for a sickness? I've lived all of my life with plenty of sicknesses, and we've never locked down the world. You know what I mean? Like all kinds of flus that they talk about, we've never gone into a state like this. We've never closed down grocery stores. I've never seen people like hoarding food and all of this kind of thing in all my years of living on planet Earth. And so it all was just really foreign and strange to me to see people behaving like this and to listen to the authority figures giving these kind of rules. I'm not a big rules person in the first place. And I don't just follow along. I question things. Like, so, if you're telling me that the kids aren't going to school, I'm like, why? And especially even they were saying even at that time that kids aren't really affected, and so I started looking for other like-minded doctors and, people on TV. And I actually found Del Bigtree at the time, and he was one of the main people, and a bunch of other doctors got together, and they were the ones that from like March until like the summer that kept me kind of sane, because they were saying what I was saying, like this behavior is just not normal, it's unnecessary and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, as far as like being a mother with her, I just tried to, do the best by her, and the education was crazy. I mean, listening to them Zoom, the school wasn't even a good school in the first place, but it was like the whole end of 5th grade was just like a wash. So yeah.
So I have another question that's very important, because I have witnessed so many parents that come to me telling me that they're scared to take their kids out of school now, that they're scared to homeschool. Where do you think that you found the strength to say, you know what, I'm going to deny a $40,000 scholarship? That's a lot of money, because you felt the need as a mother to protect your child. Where does that even come from?
Yeah, I mean, so in the fall of 2020, when the schools in New York were closed, we actually went to school in France, at Nice, and it was an amazing experience, and I saw how great the school system is there, and she had a great time and had friends, but they did have to wear masks, but it was still 2020, and so I kind of weighed the options, and I was like, well, at least we're in-person school, right? And all of the kids, they were like these little cloth masks, and all the kids would take them off at lunch, and everything, eat lunch together, and then they were forced to put them back on. But by the summer of 2021, like, I had done the mask thing. Okay, we did it. And I was like, we're not going to continue this into the fall of 2021 in another school. And so I was really worried all summer long after having heard that we got the scholarship. I kept calling the principal, and I was like, what are you guys going to do? I need to know. And then when they finally made the decision, I was like, my daughter will not be in a mask in this school. And so I had to scramble, and I just tried to find other parents and research what homeschool actually was, and come to find out it's really not that big of a deal. It's not hard. Most people use a program. They don't do all of the schooling themselves. So, so it's really manageable. Your kid can do other extracurricular activities, so they are going to make friends. You have a lot of free time to do other things in the city that you live in. So it actually was really a blessing in disguise in a way. I mean, there's pros and cons to in-person school and homeschooling, but after I got over the hurdle of like figuring out what program I was going to use, it's been like a breeze. So yeah, it's been great.
What has been the most painful thing that you took out of this whole experience starting since 2020?
Well, I mean, there's many painful things. The discrimination, that we felt, what's happened in my own personal family, the way family members treated me, it's so hurtful. I'm still not over it, to be honest. I never got an apology. That now that we have more information about, that it never stopped transmission, and all of the other information that came out. I was the one sending the articles to all of the family members, and at one time my mother was reading them all and she was agreeing with me, but somehow over the course of the months and years, she ended up, falling into the brainwash trap, and I feel like I lost her, to be honest. Like, I feel like our relationship will never be the same. She's not on Instagram, so she's not gonna see this, but it's just, and my sister was more accepting. My brother, it was a terrible thing. Like, we were outside at a family gathering and he wouldn't come downstairs from the upstairs porch to see us, and he wouldn't let his son come near my daughter, her cousin, so that was the worst. Also, because I'm a dancer, I wasn't allowed to go to the dance studios. When they reopened, certain dance studios had the vaccine mandate in place, or you had to dance in a mask, and there's no way I'm going to dance and sweat in a mask. And so I had to wait until April of 2022 before I was let into a dance studio again. And so I've been dancing my entire life. So just imagine how devastating that is to have that taken away from you. I came to New York originally to be a dancer. You know what I mean? It's like my whole life. And I do massage and work in the retail store to make money, but dance is my passion. And it was taken away from me, not to mention the fact that we couldn't go into restaurants and we were looked down upon, as if we were dirty. It's just like this whole psychological mess that they play with your brain to make you feel like you're less than. But we stood strong and we were like, I don't care, I'll eat at home. You're not going to tell me to put a mask to walk into the door of the restaurant and take it off to sit down. Like, that logically doesn't make any sense, does it?
Right, it doesn't make sense because it was about control. It wasn't nothing to do with public health and safety, because if it was about safety, then across the United States and across the world, the same rules would have been implemented. We were in New York City, right? But you can go to Texas, it will be a completely different situation. So therefore, something is off, right? So it was just the things that you just said to me right now is just, wow, it's just really sad that you said you lost your mother. So prior to this whole thing that happened in 2020, you had a great relationship with your mother, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, we have regular issues like most people do, but it was nothing like this, and I thought that I could, reason with her and everything like that. But I haven't seen her since I threw her party in fall of 2021. And like I said, it was outside, and she was like double masked and putting a dirty towel over her face. Wow. And we were outside.
Wow. Well, I think fear is a powerful emotion, and I think the elites know exactly what to do in order to trigger a certain response from the people. And it's sad for me to hear that, because it just seems like it just created a huge division. And in order for us to move forward, we do need to have these kind of conversations, because we cannot just pretend like, oh, well, the mandates are gone. Now you can go apply for a job, because it doesn't work that way. There has been emotional pain, physical pain, and also how were you hit financially? Because I'm assuming you were not able to work, correct?
Right. Yeah, I didn't work almost all of 2021, pretty much. I mean, I had a few clients there, and then some clients didn't want to see me. You know what I mean? They wouldn't see me, and some clients didn't care. They would say like, I got the vaccine, and I would be like, I don't care. And so they still came knowing that I wasn't vaccinated. I said I didn't, they didn't care. But other clients didn't want to see me. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, I had very little work for that year. So, and I wanted to bring up one other thing, that during the whole, the beginning of this situation, friends of mine went to the hospitals and they said the hospitals are empty, you know? So it was like, if you just sat in your house and watched TV, you know, like you didn't have like the full picture of what is going on, you know, like, so I just wanted to go back and mention that that was the case, that it wasn't, people weren't dying on the streets. Okay. It was just like, that was not happening because
right.
I thought of that because you said, about the fear,
mm-hmm.
you know, and letting people think that, that's what was happening. And actually that was not happening.
Right. Yeah. That's a point that I myself have brought up before. People dying on the sidewalk with masks on, that only happened in China. There's no other part of the world that this happened. So that allowed me to believe from the very beginning. I never bought the narrative. So I knew that something was off. And I was trying to warn people on Facebook that they should definitely look into it and ask questions. And I was met with a lot of name calling. There's people that stopped talking to me. Some people that I went to high school with, they deleted me off social media. And like you said, today there's no apology for that, because I think a few people might be ashamed to like admit the fact that they were deceived and the fact that they behave in a way that was very inhumane. And most human beings don't like to admit when they're wrong, because it's like an ego imbalance, and you know how that goes. But before we finish this segment, I want to go back to Violette and I want to ask her, you both actually, what message do you have to the world based on everything that has happened?
Well, I don't really like to discriminate between if you want to wear a mask, and if you don't, you know, you don't have to. I just don't want there to be all this negative energy between, you know, having to throw away friendships and, you know, like jobs and all of that stuff because someone doesn't want to. So like, looking past the whole mask thing, if you really, you know, want to keep a friendship, you know, then don't, like, it doesn't matter if you have a mask or you don't wear a mask, as long as like the friendship is real. You know, you should be able to hang out together, you know. So if I have a friend and she wants to come over and she wants to wear a mask, or if I come over to her house and she wears a mask, you know, and I don't, it shouldn't matter. Mm-hmm. It should just be, you know, two friends just hanging out.
Mm-hmm. Carla?
Can you repeat that question?
My question is, sure, what message do you have to the world?
Well, to stay strong and to stay in your own convictions, like to do what you really feel in your heart, you know what I mean? Like we, us in our community, we did the research, so we're not just like grabbing these ideas from the back of our head, but I mean also following your heart, following your intuition. If something doesn't seem like it's right, it's probably not, you know? And so I would just hope that people would be better critical thinkers, you know, and not just follow a narrative, because that's what's happening right now. I mean, there's, as we can see right now, there's several narratives that's going on in our country right now. And I would hope that people would take a step back and think more clearly instead of just following the crowd, you know. So
how were your friends treating you during this whole time when you publicly told them, like, I'm not with the agenda, I'm going to do research, I'm asking the right questions, something is off, and I'm not going to stay quiet about it? How did that go for you?
So I used to use, like many people, Facebook. I actually don't really use it anymore, but that was like a main way of like communicating with people, as we all know, right? And so I slip into teach mode a lot of times in my life if I know something and I want to help people and I want to be like, hey guys, you know, like look, I found this and I found that. And so I started trying to, you know, post all of the doctors that I was seeing and the research that I was seeing, you know. And I would, when I watched Del Bigtree, I would put a notification on my Facebook, and I tried to get people to look. And for the most part, people just thought I was crazy. You know, they really did. Like, they thought that, like, oh, Carla's lost her mind. Oh, you know, she's like got the tinfoil hat on or whatever like that.
Hold on. Let me just interrupt. Did they call you a white supremacist or conspiracy theorist and all of that?
Yes, of course. And especially when the riots went on, like, that's a whole other subject. But, like, I had the facts and I had the statistics, and I was told to be quiet. Okay. So, yeah. And I was petrified to post on Facebook because I was always afraid of being treated wrongly. Now I post on Instagram, like, and I don't care. I say exactly what I feel. I'm completely authentic. But I was a different person back then. Let's be honest. 3 years ago, I was a completely different person than I am now because I've had to change, you know, and I had to reach deep down into my soul and find my strength, you know. And so a lot of friends fell by the wayside. They unfriended me, they unfollowed me, or they name called me. And I had to block some people, you know, and I just said, whatever, I don't care. It's not important to me. What's important is to stand by what I believe in, because I know this is right in my soul. I'm not coming out with these ideas, you know, I'm not making this stuff up. Like, I know in my soul what's right. And so if they can't see it, I can try to teach them, which I did, because I want to try and teach people. But in the end, it's like, you have to just let it go. And so I no longer post on Facebook. Like I said, my main way of communicating with people is through Instagram, and mostly on Instagram stories, because they're just 24 hours and I feel like I can get a lot out there. And I have actually a really loyal following on my Instagram stories, and I actually have a lot of love for these people. I have no idea if all of them agree with me or not, or maybe they find me entertaining, you know, but at least I feel like it's my way of getting my voice out to some people. So yeah.
Well, thank you both, and I hope that your voices are elevated and that people across the world can listen to your stories, because I think what you both said is extremely valuable. And especially, in my opinion, Violette, what you said about the friendship part, people need to take that into consideration, because we shouldn't be torn apart just because of differences of opinion or whatever the case might be. So thank you both so much.
Thank you.